Hello, welcome to the Startup Fuckup podcast. My name is Chin and I will be your host. And as a host, I will do my very best to educate you while entertaining you with stories and experiences of entrepreneurs who have gone through that journey of success and fucked up all along the way. Why do I swear? I believe that swearing is important because it allows people to express themselves authentically and come from a place of vulnerability where they can really share not only what happened, but also how they felt in the moment and allow you to kind of visualize what's going through their mind so that you can understand how you can deal with the situation, both emotionally, but also situationally as well. We'll try to look at what went wrong, how shit hit the fan, and tease out some of the lessons behind that so that you can understand what you can do to avoid making those same mistakes and fuck up in the same way. After all, you never really fail at your business unless you actually give up. Otherwise, you have only really just made some minor mistakes or setbacks and you learn along the way and you're still on that same path. So why should we look at and try to learn from fuck-ups rather than try to mimic behavior of people who have succeeded? First off, we are not solely looking at people who have fucked up and failed. We are looking at people who are successful and we're trying to tease out the lessons that they've made as they fucked up on that journey to success. Because after all, there's this concept known as survivorship bias. And to kind of give you a quick rundown of what survivorship bias means, it is this logical error of concentrating on some of these people or things that made it past the point of selection, and we actually overlook those who do not. And this is because there is a lack of visibility around what actually happens behind the scenes. So we'll try to really tease out what made the successful people successful rather than just looking at some of the superficial behaviors like wearing the same clothes every single day like Steve Jobs. We want to really understand what they went through, how they ended up being shaped into the kind of persons that they are today. So if you're not familiar with survivorship bias, let me talk a bit more about this concept in today's teaser episode. I want to bring you back to World War II. In World War II, the US military was looking and exploring for ways to improve and reinforce their bomber planes to reduce casualty from enemy fire. So very naturally, they would look at the planes that came back and they decided to track bullet holes. And from there, they created a visualization of some of the most highly targeted areas. So the next logical conclusion that they made is, hey, if these areas are being highly targeted by enemy fire, why don't we reinforce these areas so that the planes will become stronger and that will actually increase the likelihood of them surviving and making it back? Sounds very logical, but what happened is Abraham Weld, a Jewish statistician, actually suggested otherwise. They actually said that, hey, we should actually reinforce areas that were least targeted. It doesn't sound very intuitive. You think, hey, if people are not shooting these areas, why should we reinforce them? And his argument actually made a lot of sense because what was actually happening is the US military was analyzing planes that did return home. They were not looking at the planes that did not make it back. You can imagine the planes that did not make it back did not do so because they were hit in those areas that were not targeted. And when they mapped it out, they really looked at the visualization and they saw that the highly targeted areas were places like the wings, the wingtips, the tail, the center of the plane. But then the ones that were not shot at for the planes that did make it back home were the engine, the cockpit. So obviously, those were critical areas that were essential for the plane to actually continue its function. So being hyper-focused on the ones that do make it, we will tend to naturally have this bias to overlook some of the things that happen behind the scenes. And we will try our very best in this podcast series to tease out what's actually going on. What are some of the fuck-ups that people make that aren't very easily visible, that could end up creating a situation where you end up in catastrophic failure for your business. So join me in this journey and we will do our best to go through and tease out some of these lessons and see how you can implement it in your business as well.